Welcome to Top Advisor Marketing, where you will learn how to become a prolific online influencer, attract more ideal clients, and grow your practice. Brought to you by Top Advisor Podcasting, a done-for-you podcasting solution built just for trusted advisors. And now, your co-hosts of Top Advisor Marketing, Kirk Lowe and Matt Halloran.
Hello and welcome to another Top Advisor Marketing podcast. Today I am interviewing Kirk Lowe, and the topic is, should you be a thought leader? Now, this is a question so many advisors wrestle with, and Kirk is going to help you, one, understand it, two, make a decision, and three, one of our other podcasts is going to talk to you about how you can do it. So, Kirk, where did this come from? You and I have talked about thought leadership a lot over the years, but how did this kind of bubble up, and what made you start thinking about it?
It was you.
It was me.
Yeah, you said weeks ago that, our us as a firm, we're not really a digital marketing company anymore.
Ah.
And I said, It's why you always need to have different people talking. It's why you need help with your brand and stuff like that. Even as a branding company and marketing company, it's always good to have partners, and you're a little bit newer with us, so a year and a half or whatever it is. And I started thinking about that, and it's true. We manufacture, if you will, or develop and help advisors develop and distribute thought leadership. Mm-hmm. And it's really changed our company, and it's changed the outcomes that advisors are having working with us. I mean, we've always had good outcomes, but it's taken it to a whole other level, which is exciting. So thought leadership, the idea of it is that, hey, we're creating thought leaders in our business, and how many advisors are thinking about this? And the truth is when I started thinking about us doing this podcast today, I came up with the title, or my first title for this was How to Become a Thought Leader. And I thought, no. I got something better. Mm-hmm. What's more appropriate, I guess, better is how to be known as a thought leader. Mm-hmm. Because there's people who maybe think they are thought leaders. Like I've not met too many advisors that didn't think they were smarter than 90%. In some cases, 100% of all other advisors. That was being funny. But
I'm giggling.
Yeah. It's not many that think they're better than that. But anyway, and the truth is are they even thinking about it? I started thinking, well, maybe there's lots of advisors who aren't. I know at the start you said, or in the opening of the podcast, you said that, there's a lot of advisors thinking about this. I think there's way more not thinking about it.
Wow.
And I think that's why I decided to change it to the current title that you just read, which was, should you be a thought leader? Mm-hmm. Should you as a financial advisor or whatever profession you're in, should you be pursuing being a thought leader? And we're going to delve into that today.
So I have found that, and in fact, even when you and I are working together, when anybody's really talking about a common subject, it's very important to have an operational definition. So why don't you share what your definition is? We actually have some really good definitions, plural, that really, I think, solidify what the true definition of thought leadership is. But you did some cool research, so why don't you tell us about that?
I don't think there's any point in me defining it, because I've got did some research and found some really good definitions of it. And almost there's a lot of definitions about how there's a lot of research that I found that talked about the evolving definition of thought leadership, which is interesting too. But I've got some here. I like what I read from Russ Allen Prince in Forbes. And here's what he had to say. It's a truism that thought leaders tend to be the most successful individuals or firms in their respective fields, which answers the question, part of the question of should you be, right? So he broke it into two actual definitions. So I'll read you part one first, obviously. A thought leader is an individual or firm that prospects, clients, referral sources, intermediaries, and even competitors recognize as one of the foremost authorities in selected areas of specialization, resulting in its being the go-to individual or organization for said expertise. Whew. That's a long one. That's a run-on sentence, isn't it?
Yeah. I don't think grammatically.
If our social and writing team saw that, yeah.
And that came from a blog too, so our team would have been all over that, dude. So
yeah, I love reading his stuff actually. So it's all good. So that's a pretty interesting, that's a good definition. Part two is a little simpler and preferred from my point of view. A thought leader is an individual or firm that significantly profits from being recognized as such. So I think that's where advisors start to think, can I profit from thought leadership? But I've got a thought on it, and I'll wait to share that thought after I read another definition from a guy named Michael Brenner from the Marketing Insider Group. I do not know Michael, but thank you. I'm quoting Michael Brenner here, I define thought leadership as a type of content marketing where you tap into the talent, expertise, and passion inside of your business or from your community to consistently answer the biggest questions on the minds of your target audience on a particular topic.
See, I think that is a brilliant definition. That's the one I want to go with. But there's a second part of it, which is even better.
Yeah. So he ends this by saying, it's not pedigree. It's not where you went to school. Thought leadership means you provide the best and deepest answers to your customers' biggest questions in the formats your audience likes to consume.
Man, that's so good. That is such a great definition, isn't it?
I'm going to read it again for everybody.
Yeah.
How about you read it, actually?
I'm going to read the whole thing because I really do think Russ Allen Prince is amazing and he truly a thought leader. But this Michael Brenner definition, which is, I define thought leadership as a type of content marketing where you tap into the talent, expertise, and passion inside your business or from your community to consistently answer the biggest questions on the minds of your target audience on a particular topic. It's not pedigree. It isn't where you went to school. Thought leadership means you provide the best and deepest answers to your customers' biggest questions in the formats, I'm going to touch on that, your audience likes to consume. We've talked about this over and over and over again, that you have to communicate to your clients in the medium in which they want to communicate to you and with you, not the one that you feel comfortable in. And that's why Kirk and I have been on the pulpit now for over a year, talking very specifically about how you have to cast a wide net with your client communications. And you really have to do that as a thought leadership. So Michael Brenner, spot on with that you have to answer your customers' biggest questions in the formats that your audience like to consume. Man, I love that. That's a great definition.
I think we should have him on you should have him on the podcast.
I'll reach out to him. I'll reach out to him today.
Yeah. Yeah. I wouldn't mind being on that one. You remember that?
I will.
If you can remember. I know you run fast at these. So.
I do. If
everybody's wondering why I'm not on some of them, it's because Matt just leaves me out. So, Michael, that's a great definition. Here's what I think. And I'm not completely, this point of view isn't completely developed, but it's good just to talk about it. I think thought leadership in financial services with advisory firms, so advisors, RIAs, I think it is marketing. I think trying to differentiate it and say, well, it's like as if it's a specific type of marketing for this industry, I think that's kind of wrong. I think it is marketing. Like what other types of marketing are you doing? I mean, and I would like to say that it's been happening for years. It's just happening differently. Like seminar marketing, what was that? I mean, you brought people in, you spoke in front of them, tried to sound smart, tried to look smart, tried to look successful. That's a form of trying to be seen as a thought leader. You're trying to make it happen in a very quick way. In 10, 20, 30 years ago, it was a lot easier to build credibility. Mm-hmm. It's not nearly as easy to do that. Really, even 20 years ago, it started getting more difficult to do that with seminars because most people knew that they were there to be sold to, right, not educated, right? Mm-hmm. But I really don't see a huge difference outside of the fact that most advisors aren't doing a great job of marketing themselves as thought leaders, which means they're not doing a good job of marketing themselves at all. Mm-hmm. Any thoughts on that, mister?
Well, I think that first off, I think you and I look at seminars maybe a little bit differently because the seminars that I used to coach my advisors on were very educationally based. Yes, there was a sales component, but that was more of a call to action more towards the end. Most of the advisors I worked with who did group presentations were doing it to show their thought leadership, to show what makes them unique and different, whether that was a process or an idea, a philosophy, something along those lines. But it can't be the only thing that you do. In fact, we have that great paper that's been downloaded now ad nauseum, which is death by referrals. If that's the only way that you market, then you're going to die. Your company's not going to grow. You're going to kind of hit a maximum capacity, right? Well, this is the same thing. If you just do seminar marketing, well, you're going to die unless you're only transactional. If you are truly a comprehensive financial planner, like who we target, Top Advisor Marketing, you just can't do one thing. You have to have multiple mediums, right?
Yeah, I mean, thought leadership isn't just about doing seminars. And for advisors who are just doing seminars, we hear from those people.
Oh, yeah.
And for a number of reasons. One is it's not working as well.
It's expensive.
It's very expensive is number two.
Yeah.
And number three, which I don't think gets enough measurement, doesn't get tracked well enough, is the amount of time and energy and to a certain degree sacrifice it means in their business. Because if your staff are running seminars all the time, they're not serving clients.
Mm-hmm.
So there's a cost there. I don't think advisors do a great job of tracking how much time it actually takes to run an event and follow up with everybody. I think it's tremendous. I think what we do is more intimate, more valid, more credible,
less pushy.
It's like I was going to say a tenth of the cost, but it's probably even less than that.
Well, I want to jump in. You won't believe it. So I was working with a firm, one of my last coaching clients, and we would do profitability, right? That was something that I used to consult on a lot. And we were talking about cost per client acquisition, and this person did dinner seminars. And when we accounted for all of the staff's time, all of the prep work on the front end, their cost per client acquisition was almost $40,000. $40,000
per client,
per new client. Now they sold high commissionable products, and they also did assets under management, so they would recoup that money very quickly. But it just a regular 1%, right, for a person who does AUM 1% at $1 million, it take you 4 years to break even from one client. And so
that's something else. I never would have thought it would be that high, but
it's brutal. You're really looking.
I was thinking you were going to say somewhere between 2 and 10,000.
Oh no, 10,000 is generally the number that when I used to consult on that, I would say you need to be prepared for your client acquisition to cost you about 10 grand. And advisors, a lot of them said, that's fine. If I get 5 new clients, all right, it cost me 50 grand and I make that 50 grand back in the first year, and then the next year their profit, I'm good with that. So,
so I think it's, so what kind of marketing do you do as a financial advisor that isn't related to building or establishing you as a thought leader? I mean, it's just pure advertising, I suppose.
Right, sure.
We do this, we do that. Those are a couple ideas, but I don't see social media. It's all about promoting who you are, and it should be promoting that you're smart, that you have ideas, and the only way you can do that is by sharing those ideas. I don't think many advisors would argue that they should have a blog or share articles. They just don't do it consistently, or they're sharing other people's ideas,
right.
And eventually people don't gravitate towards a common type of writing and no clear, personality,
voice,
voice, all that stuff.
Kirk, and I'm going to sound like such a negative Nelly here, and I apologize. That's not normally where I'm at on this, but you kind of got me fired up about this. And so, I do know advisors who will specifically say that they will refuse to show what their secret sauce is. And then after I get into it, right? And I would say, there's nothing secret here. You're doing the same thing as 90 other advisors that I've coached over the last 15 years. And it didn't want to say that to hurt their feelings. It was much more of a, come on, look, you may think you're really special and you're wealthy and everybody kisses your butt, but really, honestly, you have to get your thought leadership out there. And Kirk, the people who we have who are working with us right now at Top Advisor Marketing, they are so transparent with what they do and how they do it that even a moderately intelligent financial advisor could potentially copy what they do, but they don't. There's so much. We live in a world of abundance, everybody, when it comes to financial services. You're not really competing with the advisor down the street. Who you're competing with is yourself.
That's a pretty interesting statement.
Well, thank you.
I think there's lots of wonderfully intelligent financial advisors out there who aren't doing themselves any favors by not sharing their thought leadership and not running their marketing to grow that thought leadership. Not only and when I say grow, I mean that in a couple of different ways. One is to expand the amount of people who might consider or experience and might consider them a thought leader. Mm-hmm. And the second way is when you start sharing your thought leadership, you actually grow as a thought leader.
Let's talk about how
way smarter.
Let's talk about how you can convert. So since if people are still listening after I've been very critical, let's give them some good golden nuggets on what it takes to be a successful thought leader. What do you need to do, Kirk? You've written about this. You've talked about this. Educate us.
So we got 4 ideas here, and they're pretty simple ideas. One is that you have to be an expert or show expertise or have expertise in a particular niche, or with a particular audience, and really it's both. So our specific expertise with a specific audience, and the more specific you are about each, the more opportunity you have to be seen as a thought leader, if that makes sense.
Yep.
Or a more highly valuable thought leader, and you can. So, I mean, that's the first one. So, having a focus or a deep understanding of this audience is huge. And you need to have an awareness of what's going on with this audience, and then obviously how to help them. And you have to have some very developed thoughts and ideas on how to serve this audience. But if you don't understand them, it's hard to address, what type of expertise you want to share with them. Mm-hmm. So those two are the first thing, the number one point, I guess, of what it takes to be successful at being a thought leader. The second one is having a clear point of view. Whoever you're working with and whatever it is you have to be extremely clear on it. And you have to say it in a way that they understand what it means to them in their world. So it has to pertain to their worldview. So if you can't be clear, if you can't articulate that in a way that sounds unique and different, you're off to a rough start. Mm-hmm. So the question is, have you articulated what you stand for, what you know, who you do it for, and even who your enemies are? One of the best things to do when you're trying to be a thought leader is to know who you aren't. It's one of our favorite questions in the branding process is who don't you want to be? And man, when we ask that, it's the quickest answer we get in the whole discovery process. Yep. What don't you want to be? So many advisors know who they don't want to be. Mm-hmm. It's way easier to know that than it is, okay, well, who do you want to be? What do you want to be known for? Mm-hmm. Who do you want to be known with? Like what audience, that kind of thing. So, having a clear point of view is absolutely critical. If you haven't figured that out, we talk about it in quite a few of our podcasts, anything having to do with branding, a message, that kind of thing. Point number 3 of what it takes to be successful at thought leadership is having lots of expert credibility.
Okay. Well, hold on.
Lots of proof of expert credibility.
Good. I wanted you to say proof because that social proof of expert credibility is really the difference maker between just being a closeted expert and truly becoming a thought leader, I think.
Yeah, and that's what you said a couple minutes ago. And that's what I experienced 20 years ago in the business was advisors thinking that they knew more than other advisors, and they didn't want to put it out there because they didn't want other advisors to learn from them. Mm-hmm. But they gave zero opportunity for their customers, their audience, to learn about them, unless they were in a seminar, in which case there were oftentimes advisors from down the street sitting at the back, trying to, wearing some sunglasses. Oh, my goodness. That just brought back some great memories of sitting there doing a seminar and watching your competitor from like 3 doors down, sitting in the audience, hoping you didn't notice they were there at the back, eating a free lunch. Anyway.
All right. Well, what do you mean by lots of experts? So what is the social
Lots of proof of expert credibility. So the first one is having a white paper. I think that's a pretty obvious one.
Sure.
And if you've never written a white paper, go to Advisor U on our website. It's the top right of the page. And click on, I don't remember which category it is now, marketing category, I believe. And we've got a white paper on how to write your own white paper. How about that? Podcasting is, we talked about how we've talked about this ad nauseum for everybody. Well, hopefully not. Maybe it's just you and I. And podcasting is such an incredible medium to showcase your credibility. you're listening to us, aren't you? Mm-hmm. A blog. Blog is a great way. The thing about blogs, not quite as versatile as podcasting, and advisors aren't as good at it, and they tend to stop doing it. But if you can do it, and we do have some people that we've worked with, some advisors who have been fantastic at it. There's been some incredible advisors in New York area who've been, they each have, there's 4 of them in the company. I forget the name of the company. And they each have their own, I think the Reform Broker is one of them. I can't remember his first name, but they do an amazing job. And they started as bloggers, and they've done incredible well. Social media. I mean, if you want to show proof of concept, social media is a huge way to distribute that and to create it, because they'll know how much stuff you're doing by looking at your social profile. At least they should. Mm-hmm. Your activity should suggest. And if you're not constantly sharing, although not solely sharing, expert credibility on your social channels, you are behind the game. So don't forget, listen to other podcasts we've done about social media. We share the formula with you. I think it was on our series of 7 dynamic digital marketing tactics.
Yep.
One of those, we talked a lot about the impact of social media and the formulas that you should be using. So having a great website adds a lot of credibility, because it's where all your content and expertise is stored. Right? It goes to or from your website. Everything goes to or from. So those are some really simple ideas. There's obviously more. If you have your own radio station, if you have a vlog, things like that, those are also great things. They're a little more obscure just because there's fewer advisors who do them, and they're can be complicated and more expensive to pull off. But we've got some pretty simple ones here.
Well,
those are the top 3.
One other one, which is a lesser known, but is a one that you have to tread very lightly, is volunteering. Volunteering as an expert to donate your talents without any sales whatsoever is going to get you known as a thought leadership. There's an advisor that I am one of my last coaching clients, actually, Kirk, who I've been working with, who he has a lady in his office who specifically goes out and finds him events that he can go out and speak to and talk about retirement planning and pitfalls and things like that. And he doesn't do anything at all with sales. I think he actually gives away a free book, which is even cooler. And since he's doing those speaking gigs and he's volunteering to do it for no charge, he doesn't bring in food, no lunch and learn, no nothing. He's starting to get a lot more traction in the area because people realize that he really is a thought leader and he really is genuinely wanting to help people without being, a bait and switch sort of schlub.
Actually, and we forgot speaking too.
Oh, yeah.
Speaking's another one, right?
Yeah.
And another one that's really important. And it was the spark for you and I to start our own podcast.
Yeah.
You remember what happened there? Somebody reached out to both of us.
Yeah.
Separately or individually, and asked us to be a guest podcast on somebody else's show.
Yep.
So it was a guy who ran a service of going out and finding a person that was running a podcast to find guests. And now we do that as regularly, obviously. And we get our advisors who are podcasting to do that as well in their own podcasts. Mm-hmm. And that was extremely powerful, that guest podcast idea. So that's another great way for proof of expert credibility. Somebody had you on their show. And an advisor's been doing that for years, right? With being on radio,
sure,
being on TV. I'll tell you, it's a lot more difficult to get on radio or TV than it is to get on somebody else's podcast.
Heck yeah.
And if you get on the right people's podcast, and it's a little easier to do,
Boom.
You'll get way more value out of it.
One of our favorite clients that we have at Top Advisor Marketing has made that switch, Kirk. And so the last 2 podcasts that he's done with us were both podcasts with guests that he interviewed. He's actually a better interviewer than he is a guest on a podcast, because he asks just really great questions. And those 2 podcasts have gone berserk. I mean, they're nonprofit. They're both nonprofit organizations, because that's one of his passions, right? Again, talking about who do you want to focus on. He loves working with nonprofits, and man, they have just gotten so many views, so many comments, so many calls in saying, "Oh my God, thank you so much for doing that. That was such a great podcast." Or, "Thank you so much. We saw your social media post. I haven't read or listened to the podcast yet, but I saw that you interviewed this organization. Thank you so much for helping." That's the power of all of this, man. I just think it's such a great idea.
Yeah. So that was for the first 3. So I'll just reiterate them here. Expertise in a particular niche and with a particular audience. That's number one. Number two is a clear point of view. Number three is lots of proof of expert credibility. And number four is this: consistent delivery and communication. If you want to be known as a thought leader, you have to consistently deliver and communicate with people. You cannot just pop in once a year with some ideas and then disappear. It does not work like that at all. You have to be committed. Marketing is that. So this is not new news, right? This is just marketing 101. Consistently deliver your message, consistently be in front of people, and use multiple media or omni-channel marketing to get to people, and keep it happening. The neat thing is with how marketing is delivered these days, it's not that difficult to take one piece of content and deliver it through a whole bunch of different channels.
Yeah.
Like a podcast can be a YouTube video, right? A podcast can be turned into a blog if you want to make the effort to do that. Podcast can go through all your social channels. A podcast can be emailed. A podcast can be listened to on a mobile device, a desktop. Podcast can be played while you're running. There's so many things, so easy to distribute something like that. Same with a blog. It can be distributed so many ways. So those are four things that it takes to be successful at thought leadership. And really the last kind of debate for you and I to solve is this idea that we've talked about, throughout this podcast is this right for you?
Right.
As a financial advisor. And we'll do a follow-up podcast on how to become a thought leader, or not how to be known as a thought leader. We'll work on that and get something together in the next month or so. But for now, really, it comes down to a couple questions, and I'll let you finish this off. So we had a couple of cool lines that we talked about earlier.
Well, I'm totally going to have you say one of the cool lines because it really was your idea and I love it. But I think the big question is, do you want to be known for something specific or unique? Do you want to be known as that person? Do you want to be known as the person who works with gastroenterologists? So every gastroenterologist in the world thinks of you as their financial advisor. That's possible. We have a success story that he's actually not a client of ours, but he's just very, very successful, who works just like that. He has positioned himself so well, and I'm going to say gastroenterologist because I don't want to give up his specific niche per se, but he speaks at their conference every year. He speaks at regional events. They have him on webinars because what he has done is position himself as the thought leader. He hasn't positioned himself as a salesperson. Does he get business? Oh, dear God, he does. But it's because he went that extra effort and he was all in, fully committed. This is who I want to be. He's got an unbelievable story, just like Kirk was talking about earlier, kind of like, what is your UVP? What is your value proposition? Why does this group appeal to you so much? And he has been wildly successful. Now, we have talked on podcasts before about how important it is to be a specialist. When it comes to marketing, if you go out in the middle of the Atlantic Ocean and you cast a net and you try to catch the exact fish that you're looking for, the probability is next to nothing. But if you know exactly what fish you're going to go fish for before you ever leave port, you'll make sure you have all the right equipment, all of the right technology to find that fish specifically. That's what good marketing is. It's very, very hard to market the word that Kirk is going to bring up and is going to explain. So Kirk, tell us your new word, how we want to define a non-specialist.
Well, yeah. So you either want to be known for being something specific or unique, or the other side of that coin is you're going to be known for someone who does everything. And so typically we call those people as generalists. I don't like beating up on generalists because I think he can be a specialist generalist. I think he can be so good, right? I mean, there's advisors who do a lot and they're really good at a whole bunch of things, right? It's a lot of times it's because they bring in a bunch of specialists who work under them and they cover up their fields and they just organize it all, and they can be very successful. But I think the word that what we came up with before we got into this podcast today is a commoner. If you're doing what everybody else is doing and you're not doing it very differently, you're a commoner. And you can make a living doing that. Very, very few are going to be fulfilled, are going to have the kind of longevity and the kind of success in their business that people who are stepping outside of that will have. And I mean, I shouldn't say that. There's advisors who have stepped outside of that who want to be specialists, but they don't know how to market it, and they don't do the right things to be a thought leader. So they're not necessarily getting further ahead than a commoner, if you will. But you have to make a decision. So it is thought leadership. Is that approach good for your business? Should you be thinking about it? And if you don't want to be a commoner and you want to be a specialist, you need to start thinking about this. You need to seriously consider it. So check back with us in a month or so, and we'll start talking about steps and strategies for pursuing becoming known as a thought leader.
There you go. Kirk, if you don't mind, would you tell everybody, just kind of what's been going on in your brain and what's been going on in Kirk Lowe's world? I
think it's become increasingly obvious that advisors are really distraught, really concerned about how they're going to handle marketing when they don't have any time. Mm-hmm. And they've been misled so many times with marketing, so many starts and stops. I think we're seeing more conversations being started, and I'm happy that this podcast has been a huge influence on us being able to reach a lot more advisors. Mm-hmm. Just for fun, I'll let everybody know we're in our 17th month or 18th month of podcasting? Yeah. Somewhere around there. Mm-hmm. And we're hitting right now about 5,000 to 6,000 downloads a week. So we're over 20,000 a month. Mm-hmm. Those numbers, I don't think I ever thought we were going to get there. I mean, we have some help through iris.xyz. They've been an incredible partner of ours, just loving our stuff. And they've been sharing a lot of our advisors' podcasts too. And that community, iris.xyz, is growing. The plans that the CEO, Doug Heikkinen, has for that company are wonderful. As a non-traditional media company, I think it's an incredible opportunity for advisors, for people who want to learn about financial planning, growing their business. I think it's a really neat, and I think he's got we have some really neat things that we're working on with him. So I'm excited about that. But mostly I'm excited about being able to share our message through this medium and getting so much great feedback, having a really a strong but simple social media presence that we've been more consistent delivering than we've ever had before. Yeah. This stuff works if you do it. And we're one of the success stories, and we've got other ones happening. And I think that's pretty exciting stuff. So.
Yeah. I remember when you and I were totally excited about the first podcast we ever had that had 500 downloads or 500 listens. And we were super, super excited. And then,
dude, I remember getting pretty excited when I think one of them hit like over 100 or 200. And I was like, oh my gosh, that's pretty, that was within a couple of months.
Yeah. But this really shows, this really proves the point. We do think it's important to walk the walk, everybody. And, it has taken us a while. And we say that to our podcasting and social clients at Top Advisor Marketing. We say, hey, this isn't going to happen overnight. For some of them, it's happened more quickly than it happened for you and I, Kirk. But, there are advisors who are really starting to get some major traffic, and we're very grateful that we can be a part of it. So, Kirk, thank you very much for this great, great idea today, which is, should you be a thought leader? If you've not subscribed to the podcast yet, make sure you click that subscribe now button below. That way, every time we come out with a new podcast, it'll show up directly on your listening device. And if you know anybody, any other financial services professional or CPA or estate planning attorney who really could use this information, it is broadly applicable. So make sure that you just click that share button and send it off to all your friends and family. So, Kirk, thanks for your time today.
Thanks, Matt.
And we'll see you guys on the other side of the mic for the next episode very soon.
Are you ready to change the way you communicate with your clients? Are you tired of being the best kept secret in your area? Learn how to become a prolific online influencer, attract more ideal clients, and grow your business. Contact us today and see what the power of podcasting can do for your business. Click on the Contact Us link on our website at topadvisormarketing.com and set up a call to learn more. Follow us on LinkedIn and Facebook for more updates and information.